I'm Jamie Korf. I am an editor for Minneapolis.St.Paul magazine, and I am your host for today. And today is a very special edition. It is a jump off from our most successful Wellness Wednesday to date, which, as you all know, was the Sleep and Chinese Medicine Body Clock session that took place back in April, which came and left in a flash. And suddenly here we are in mid-July. But I digress. So we received so many wonderful, incisive questions and inquiries and just general feedback from you guys, very highly engaged audience members. And because the outpouring, even well after the session wrapped up, was so strong, we decided to springboard this topic into a two-part series, which brings us to today. So sleep, as you all know, is just such a hot button topic these days. I mean, it always has been, but especially lately. We know that, our iPhones can kind of double as sleep sensories, right? And tell us the quality of our sleep. Same with our Fitbits. We know there's alarm clocks out there that try to mimic the sun when it rises, so you don't have to hear any obtrusive beeps. We know all that stuff exists, right? We just want to continue to arm ourselves with the education, with the knowledge that exists out there about the why. There's a crowded marketplace of these smart gadgets and devices and products that aim to show us, how we slept, or they aim to help us fall asleep. And that's great. And there's definitely a time and a place for that, but they don't break down the whys. We know our sleep has the potential to get better. So why is this happening to me? Why do I find myself waking up at 4:22 a.m. on the nose night after night? Why do I sleep for 8 hours, but I feel like junk and like as if I slept for 3? Why do I crash at 1:30 p.m. every single day like clockwork? And so that's where the Chinese medicine philosophy really comes into play. The 24-hour body clock, as a recap, and Meghan will delve more into this shortly, it assigns different hours of the day to different organs in our body, telling us what's internally happening while we're having a midday slump or we're sleeping with shallow breathing, how we can optimize our meals and improve our daily habits to like truly get a good night's rest, right? Like just to wake up feeling good. The pandemic it continues. I mean, I'd be remiss to not mention this, but the pandemic continues to have a real negative impact on our sleep. And that's why sleep is just so on our radar these days, right? There's new findings out there from, I think it was the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, that said that more than half of Americans reported an increase in sleeping problems since the start of the pandemic. And they're referring to that as COVID-somnia. And so we're fed up. We're tired of being tired, frankly. We want to know ourselves better so that we can be empowered with the information that provides us solutions. We've been our best advocates for healthcare over this past year and a half, and sleep is most certainly a part of that package deal. So before we get started with today's guest, today's session is in collaboration, with Bloomington-based Northwestern Health Sciences University. They're the leading chiropractic school in the Midwest, this huge gem right in our own backyards. They offer a roster of degrees in natural health. If you joined us the other month, we covered the acupuncture tracks at length. And they have a Bloomington clinic. It's open to the public, and they offer natural care services like acupuncture, massage, cupping, Chinese medicine, and so much more. All these modalities that, of course, can help you get to sleep. But so if you'd like to check out sort of our anthology, if you want to call it that, of articles that we've done with them over the past 3 years, you can go to Mpls.St.Paul. It's kind of long, so we'll have it in the chat box. It's /topic/Northwestern Health Sciences University. So we've covered gut health and hormones, posture health, mystery chronic pain issues, what your tongue says about, your well-being, and so on. The topics are absolutely limitless, and that's why this partnership between our party and theirs continues to go really strong. So one quick housekeeping item, just be sure to drop all of your questions or comments in the Q&A, and we will do our best to get around to ticking off all of them at some point. So without further ado, today's speaker is Meghan Mabe. She led our first sleep session back in April, as you can recall, and she's back to sort of pick up where we left off. We are so excited to have her back. She's a Chinese medicine practitioner, massage therapist, acupuncturist. She's someone who knows a thing or two about sleep in the world of Eastern medicine. So welcome back, Meghan. Thank you for returning for part 2. Why don't you just, if you wouldn't mind, give kind of a brief intro to our audience before we get started. From there, we'll just run through a quick recap, and then we'll resume where we left off. And one last reminder, we want this to feel really conversational for you guys. We want you guys to feel like we're talking at you. Like, think of it as a classroom. We're getting educated, ask questions, participate, be a part of the conversation. Your engagement is obviously a major part of the success that we owe to these webinars. So Meghan, hi, take it away from here.
Hi, it's nice to be back, and thanks for everyone for coming back. So I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine here at the Bloomington Clinic, and last session we talked about the sleep cycle and the Chinese medicine body clock. So we're going to do a little brief recap of the sleep cycle, but today's focus is going to be more on the wake cycle. So like Jamie was saying, we're going to talk about practices you can do when you wake up, and foods that you can eat, and kind of how you can structure your day so that you are living your best day, and so that your evenings are more comfortable and you can hopefully get into that sleep cycle a little bit easier. So I'm going to share my screen here. Great. Okay. Give me just 1 minute here. Okay. So in Chinese medicine, our circadian rhythms are divided into 2-hour intervals across the 24-hour day. During each time frame, the concentration of qi and their energy and blood peak in a specific internal organ, giving it a chance to reset and regulate. Here we go. To understand the Chinese medicine body clock, you first must understand the concept of qi. It consists of energy in every sense. The earth has qi, our body has qi, our thoughts and emotions. Qi is in a constant state of rhythm, and the Chinese medicine body clock is based on an understanding of this. During the 24 hours, qi is thought to be more in and out of different organ systems every 2 hours. During the night, our qi goes inward so our body can rest and reset. The concentration of qi and blood peaks in a specific internal organ, giving it a chance to reset and regulate. Okay. So here's just a little recap of what we had talked about last session. So if you look at the sleep cycle, 7 to 9 p.m. is when pericardium is the most active, and our pericardium protects the heart, focuses on and at this time, we should be focusing on self-care and quality time with loved ones. Meditation is a good thing to do. Gentle stretching, relaxing with loved ones, or taking a bath are all good activities. So at this time, we should be winding down and preparing our bodies for sleep. And then at that 9 to 11 time is the triple heater, triple warmer time. And this is a concept in Chinese medicine that we focus on a lot. But this governs our body's fluid metabolism and ensures free flow to all of our organ systems. And at this point, we should be start easing into sleep and then avoiding artificial light and media. So if you're not ready for sleep yet, reading a nice book or listening to gentle music, also doing guided meditations, things like that are great things to do. And then at that 11 to 1 period is the gallbladder time. And this is the time for true regeneration. Our gallbladder repairs damaged cells, and it's very imperative to be asleep at this time so that our bodies can be regenerating and for our most optimal cognitive function. And then at that 1 to 3 time is the liver time, and the liver is very cleansing to our blood. When this gets interrupted, it can result in low energy during the day and feelings of anger, angst during the day. And another thought too is, and we'll get into this during this talk, is that eating your last meal of the day earlier makes this process and this time of the night a little bit more restful.
Meghan, can I ask you 2 quick questions?
Sure.
So given that the gallbladder, it looks like the power hour is 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., it's in charge of so much, imperative to be asleep at this time for healthy cognitive. Would you suggest, I mean, obviously everyone works different schedules. Some people work the night shifts, but those that can go to bed at night, ideally, are they asleep before 11 o'clock in order to really reap the benefits?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ideally, you want to be sleeping a little bit before 10:30 is kind of the optimal time if you're getting if your cycle is normal, if your work cycle is normal, you work the 8 to 5 or you're home, it's best to try to get into bed and kind of be resting by 10:30 so that you're asleep by 11.
Okay. Even if you sleep for 8 or 9 hours, right? It's still that time is really critical.
It is, yeah, and you'll see during the presentation too, these are all like the ideal times and where the organs in our body are most active. And so this is the most optimal time, but there's wiggle room here and there and all of that. So, yeah.
I did have another question, but I feel like you might touch on it later. And it was just about like what should be our cutoff time when we eat. I mean, I do notice that like after 5, if I eat,
yeah,
I can tell that it affects my sleep. I just feel really groggy. Is there sort of like, just personally for you, Meghan, is there sort of like a cutoff time that you've imposed for yourself?
Yeah, so I would say between 5 and 6 is the most optimal time to be finished with meals. That gives your digestion an appropriate amount of time to digest your food so that your body can actually work and process what it needs to do at night. But we will also get into that a little bit more. It's actually, not only is it important for you to focus on when you're ending your meals, but also how much you're eating at that time and what you're eating. So the evening meal is the meal that should be actually one of the lighter meals in your day so that your body is not having to digest and process too much at that time.
Perfect. That totally makes sense. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so here we did go through the lungs last time, but the lungs in the large intestine are kind of also part of the wake or the beginning to wake cycle. So we're just going to briefly talk about those two. So the lungs are from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. And beyond respiration, our lungs help us to move energy through the body and keep our immune system in top health. And when the lungs are imbalanced, symptoms like wheezing and coughing can surface. At this point, you should be snoozing pretty peacefully. And it's also important at this time to be breathing. Soft inhales and exhales are really key during this time, which is actually good news if you are sleeping between that time. You're getting what you need. You're getting the oxygen you need in your body to be really healing your lungs and focusing on your lungs. If the lungs are balanced, there are always emotions attached to these organs too. So we find that the balanced perspective is more acceptance, surrender, and clarity. If you are having an imbalance, or if you're waking at this time, you may be noticing that you're having some signs of grief or sadness. And that's important to kind of focus on those feelings.
Can I jump in
Also,
really quick, Megan?
yeah, absolutely.
I'm guessing because of the pandemic, everyone is sort of, in a way, I don't mean to get all psychoanalyst, but kind of grieved that last year. And I just wonder, I don't obviously have any numbers or studies on me, but I just wonder if a lot of people can relate to this, waking up in the middle of the night because of that, you know, sort of the secondhand grief for losing, in a way, a year of our lives. And just as a reminder, I know I mentioned this in our first session, but what kind of attracted me to this topic and what ultimately led me to write it and learn more about it was because I was repeatedly waking up at 3:27 a.m. for nights and nights and nights. And it was just so bizarre to me that like my body just knew what time it was. I mean, it wasn't even a beat off. And that's what led me to talk to Northwestern and sort of learn more about why this could be. And that's how I learned about the Chinese medicine organ, you know, the body clock. And it was, you know, I had lost my younger brother in a tragic accident, not even a full year before then. And I learned that it was grief kind of coursing through my veins, and that, you know, I didn't have, my chest wasn't really open. I was doing a lot of shallow breathing, and that affected my sleep quality. And so it's just this rinse repeat cycle of waking up night after night after night and just feeling terrible the next day. So I tried to do more kind of guided meditation exercises and working out a little bit more, just to kind of release a lot of stress and tension and aggression and all that. And it took some time, but it helped. Not to insert myself into the conversation, but that's ultimately kind of what led to us sort of unlocking this topic to begin with and learning about it. And again, I just feel like so many people can probably relate.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jamie. I think that there are a lot of people that can relate, and I've seen patients in my clinic coming in too, and we talk about the cycles, and there are quite a few people that are waking at this time. But what you've mentioned about what you were doing for yourself, self-care to help, is really key. So the deep breathing and the meditation is really important. The light physical activity, because these are all things that are actually using and focusing on your lungs. And so then you can be really processing that grief and moving forward, you know. And then also just considering a counselor, because when we speak how we feel and what our grief is, that's, you know, we're tapping into our lungs as well and helping to get through that. So thanks for sharing that. So let's move on to the large intestine. So the large intestine is between 5 and 7 a.m. And the large intestine is responsible for eliminating waste from the body. It's best to start the day with some warm water, warm hydration. So at this point in the day, if you're having your regular work day, you're starting to wake up and start moving and getting ready for the day. And so the best thing you can do in the morning before you drink your coffee is to have a warm glass of water. You can add lemon to it, or a little mint, or just water in general. And that really helps to hydrate the large intestine, and then it helps start the process of elimination. And it's really important to have that elimination in the morning time or throughout the day, because then that also not only helps to release the toxins that you've kind of stirred up through the night, but also it helps to release emotions. And our emotions that can kind of get stuck in the large intestine are guilt and stagnation. Stagnation meaning just any type of emotion that's kind of you're stewing on or you're processing throughout the evening. So this also is a time to really, it represents the ability to let go. And also, again, that's correlating to the process of elimination. So, and yeah, so a lot of people normally wake up during this time. And it's just important to, maybe drink that warm water, do a little bit of, stay hydrated during that time, start doing a little bit of movement to get things moving as well. And it's important to be eating for our large intestine to process vegetables and dark leafy greens, avoiding many cold and raw foods, cold drinks. Those cold foods can constrict the large intestine and then will slow motility. So that's why it's really important to be doing warmer foods and beverages in the morning. And then for the stomach is the next organ system, and the stomach starts from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And this is a time for breakfast. So eating warm breakfast and making sure it's very nourishing. Some suggestions would be like a warm porridge or oats, or drinking some warm tea. Those are all really important things or foods and drinks that you can try in the morning. And at this time, should be your biggest meal of the day. So kind of if you're eating your biggest meal of the day at this time, you're optimizing your digestion and absorption throughout the day. And then the emotions during this time can be sadness, anger, nervousness, fear, joy. If you're feeling sick to your stomach, that could be an indication that there's a little bit of imbalance there as well. So just again, reiterating, choose warm foods to support the digestion system, and then practice mindfulness at this time. And then we get to the spleen and the pancreas from 9 to 11 a.m. And in Chinese medicine, the spleen is considered the most important digestive organ. The power organ transfers our food into nutrients and funnels that energy throughout the body. It's key in building blood. So if you haven't eaten by this time, you'll still have a bit of time to squeeze in a good breakfast that'll be digested well. And good news for not so early, the not too early birds, the 9 to 11 is just fine to be eating your biggest meal and to be getting your warm liquids in and warm foods in. And this is a time that can build confidence, which gives you the power to kind of avoid feelings of imbalance that could be those worrying or low self-esteem moments that we have. If it's not working properly, you may suffer from bloating, exhaustion, loose bowel movements, or feelings of despair. Use these hours to snack healthily. Cherries, sweet potatoes, and figs are really important, or really nourishing to our spleen.
Can I interrupt you really quick with a question that kind of reminds me of the cherries and figs?
Yeah.
One of our attendees asked if there's any truth to eating, it says 2 dates and 8 almonds every day, something about that making you sleeping better at night. They say it signals your body that you will be feeding it. They're just looking for clarification around that. Have you heard of that, Megan?
So I'm always suggesting the dates. So I'm not sure about the almonds, but the dates are very good and nourishing to the spleen, and they help sleep. So if I have patients that are having a hard time sleeping, and they are, so in Chinese medicine, we have a concept called blood deficiency. So if we're seeing a little bit of blood deficiency and they need more nourishing foods, I will always suggest eating dates.
Okay.
So yeah, it's great. It's great to add to your evening routine to help
Okay.
with sleep.
Is there something to be said about the quantity? Do you know?
You
Because it was
know,
very specific, 2 dates and 8 almonds. Just wondering.
yeah, I don't know about the quantity. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not sure,
Okay.
but definitely a couple dates in the evening is great. And then
Okay.
almonds are always very healthy for you too.
Right,
So
right. Okay, we do have a few more questions, but I'll wait till we get through a couple more of these meridians.
okay. Um, so okay, so now we're moving into the afternoon. So from 11 to 1 p.m. is the heart meridian. The heart works to pump nutrients around the body. Its actions are engaging and consuming. The balanced emotions are joy, or the imbalance would be more of a frightfulness or a sadness. This is a good time to be eating your lunch. And if we go back to the concept of the food that we're consuming, a light cooked meal at this time is recommended. And then at this point, it's a really good time to be your most creative. So if you're having a lot of activities that you need to be processing and using your brain a lot, this is a great time to be doing those things. And you know, creativity also really brings happiness. So it's important to focus on this as well. So this time is powerful and extremely supportive of our creativity and activities that bring you happiness. Use this time for brainstorming, trying out an artistic endeavor, and activities that embody love and joy. Feelings of extreme joy or sadness can be also experienced at this time. And it's also a good time for you to, if you are needing a nap, a good time. This is a great time to have a nap or a cup of tea, and just kind of having a few minutes for mindfulness at this time is great. So, and then the small intestine, which is from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The small intestine meridian is important in the digestion process, so it makes sense that it kicks into high gear after lunch. It's more common to deal with indigestion or bloating at this time. If you feel bloated, tired, or experience symptoms such as pain in the lower abdomen or a sore throat during this period, you may have an imbalance in this meridian. And you're also emotionally processing as this happens. And if insecurity comes up, to take notice and to try to face it rather than repress it. And this time period is when the energy of the day begins to slow down, and we can begin to support our system in preparation for the evening time. We link the second half of the day leading into the evening time, the yin energy in Chinese medicine, which is all about rest, rejuvenation, and slowing down. So detail oriented. So this kind of moves, we just talked about this in the heart meridian, but they kind of work together. So this is also a good time to continue that detail oriented, the detail oriented tasks that you're doing, and to then, you know, embrace that creativity time too. So tips for you during that time are also to take some time for yourself to focus on your breathing, 10 or 15 minutes at that time. And then again, just remembering that the meal in the middle of the day should be a lighter meal. And then we get to the bladder meridian. And the bladder meridian, this is the most common time for energy to take a nosedive and for people to hit a wall at that 3 to 5 p.m. time. The body is preparing at this time to settle into the evening. To avoid the low energy, lay off the caffeine in the later morning hours. So don't be drinking coffee all morning long, because you definitely will feel this a little bit more. And enjoy a bit of salt during this time. So eating those almonds or eating something a little bit salty can help give you a little boost of energy. And it also goes is pretty significant for the bladder and the kidney, which we're going to be getting to next. And when we work with the ancient body clock consistently, this time is a powerful reflection of your progress and an indication of how well your energy is flowing. Scheduling tasks that require less brain power at this time are good. For example, grocery shopping, basic paperwork, and more mundane tasks are best at this time.
Megan, there's a question that I feel like this might be the appropriate time to ask, since 5 p.m. is sort of, we're hitting that cutoff for supper time. Somebody asked, you stated that eating warm food / beverages is important, but what time of the day is okay for cold or colder foods? And they make the great point that in the summertime months, especially given the excruciating heat waves that we've had lately, it's just more likely that we'll be seeking out cooling foods. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so seasonal eating is also another concept of Chinese medicine. So when I'm referring to the warmer foods at this time, it's more like talking about the morning. So the whole concept of the large intestine time, where we're wanting to eliminate our toxins in the food that we've eaten from the day before and all of that. And so to really stimulate that large intestine and to get your body moving in the morning, warm foods are the best to start with. And then if you want to integrate, your watermelon and your colder foods and their salads and things like that later in the day, that's great. And or, if you want to be adding some of those into your breakfast, that's fine too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's great. And speaking of breakfast, Janet wants to know, is it supposed to be the biggest meal of the day, like they all say? And that she spoke with a functional medicine doctor that says our digestion is strongest from 10 to 2. And so that lunch should be the biggest meal of the day. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for the Chinese medicine concept, the breakfast would be the best time of day for your largest meal. And so, there's a little wiggle room playing here and there, but you more so you don't want to be eating your biggest meal at the end of the day, because your body doesn't have enough time to be processing that. And so, in the Chinese medicine concept, the breakfast is the biggest part of meal, and then the lunch is a little smaller, and then definitely dinner is more like soup or like a very light meal. So yeah, there's a little bit of play with that, but we would definitely say warm and bigger meal in the morning. So yeah.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah. Okay, so and then we get to the kidneys. So the kidneys are from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and this is definitely the time to be winding down for the day. The kidneys remove waste and excess fluid to make urine. Since your kidneys store energy that gets used throughout the day, the early evening hours are an optimal time to eat a nourishing dinner and to relax. And also eating, really focusing on your food throughout the day is important. So eating a nourishing breakfast and lunch will also put this meridian in a better position to be filtering out and maintaining the chemical balance of blood in your body during the day. And if you're feeling an extreme level of fatigue around this time of day, after the typical afternoon drop, you may have you may consider looking at your adrenals. So your adrenals may be taxed and may not be able to be getting you through all of the day. Physically healthy adrenals feel vibrant at this time, but feelings of fear can creep in at this time as well. So signs of kidney and adrenal fatigue include lack of libido, lower back pain, and lower back pain are a couple of them. In terms of the emotion, in TCM, the kidney is related to fear, which can manifest as chronic fear or anxiety when you're out of balance. So, and then when you're in balance, you are feeling supported and confident and feeling good. The most important point to highlight during this time is to avoid doing high intensity exercise or strenuous workouts. This is especially relevant if you have an underlying hormonal imbalance, like a thyroid condition or adrenal fatigue. The late afternoon and evening time is best dedicated to unwinding and relaxing, and the balance and well-being of your body is best left to exercising in the morning. If you enjoy movement as a way to wind down, I would say to go for a relaxing walk outside or enjoy some gentle stretching during this time, but leaving more of your vigorous activities for earlier in the day. So.
Okay. I'm just going to pipe in here really quick. I just want to make sure that we're answering questions since this is going so fast like it did last time. Janet Spielman said, someone experiences night terrors, would the time they occur be traced back to the body component on the mind/body clock to determine cause? I would say, well, I'll let Dr. Meghan speak to that.
Can you speak to that? Can you say that again? Sorry.
So Janet says, it sounds like she's experiencing night terrors, or someone she knows is experiencing night terrors.
Uh-huh.
And it says, would the time they occur be traced back to the body on the mind-body clock to determine cause? And I, just based off of what I've learned from wonderful Meghan, I would say yes, if it's recurring at the same time.
Absolutely.
Which is it? The lungs is that 3 to 5, Meghan? And what was the one before?
Lungs is 3 to 5. Yeah, in the morning, and then 5 to 7 is the large intestine. So yeah, and then earlier in the night, we can go through earlier in the night if you want. We do have some slides that we could show you.
Well, I wonder if for the sake of time, Meghan, maybe we could post that on the landing page for Wellness Wednesday. Would you be okay with that if we took of those more like the big clock that sectors out all the different meridians? And
sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll
yeah. And then the earlier, like you had just said, is the 1 to 3 is the liver time.
3 is liver. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meghan.
Yeah. So this is the last slide for the kidneys, was the last slide for the wake cycle presentation. So we can talk more about these specific organs, or if anyone has any other questions, we can dive into them a little bit deeper.
There was a question that was asked a while ago, and I was waiting for the right time to work it in. This person says, if the times are important, the 2 hour intervals with, how it coincides with the day, what do you do if there is a time change? Like say somebody travels or, it's a spring forward, fall back change. Does that going to have any impact?
Yeah, it can. And I think that is why our bodies feel such jet lag when we move into different time lapses or different times, because our body is so accustomed to what we're in before, and then our whole system has to kind of regenerate and move into get accustomed to something else. So it'll take time for your body to adjust to that specific time zone, but yeah, I'm sure you'll definitely feel a little shift during those times.
Great. That totally makes sense.
Mhm.
It's not like it's something that we can really power through. Like we just have to
Right.
kind of just let it naturally, eventually align back into place. One of our guests, Denise, says, do you recommend taking any natural supplements to help with sleeping? She references CBD or Highlands Calm Forte or any others that you're aware of, Megan, that you recommend from a personal or professional standpoint.
Yeah, so I don't personally recommend or prescribe supplements for sleep. I think that it's fine if there are so many out there that some people will do okay with valerian, whereas some others they're like alert and awake in the middle of the night because it kind of has that opposite effect. Um, and then, CBD is fine if that helps you calm down. Ideally, it's best just to kind of focus and work on these cycles to try to get your body into another state. But it's if you're really struggling, it's fine to try something. We here look at your constitution and kind of diagnose you with a pattern, and we prescribe herbal formulas, so Chinese herbs that can help with sleep. So that's where my expertise come in more, is the Chinese medicine formulas, and so that's what I would prescribe most. But it's not like if you're waking at 3 a.m, take this formula. It's more constitutional for you. So we want to work not only on just that you're waking, but what else is going on in your body that's not allowing you to sleep. So, but yeah, I'm not opposed to those more natural sleep aids if people want to try them. So, yeah.
Perfect. And I should probably slip in here that the on-site herbal dispensary is like one of the biggest in the nation. Is that, fact check me?
It is true. Yeah,
It's so
it's true. And
cool.
it's right here on campus.
It's
So
right on campus.
yeah.
And also I learned that you can, if you say that you meet with Dr. Megan or you meet with another practitioner, and what they can do is they'll put together, like she was saying, kind of this supplement, and maybe it's in powder form, it's a mixture that is tailored specifically for like your body and the issues that you're struggling with. And I actually received this from a previous practitioner that's no longer a part of the faculty at Northwestern, but I was able to call. So she called it into the on-site dispensary. They called to let me know it was ready, and then they just mailed it to me. And I paid for it over the phone. It was super, super easy. And it's just so impressive how many herbs you guys carry and how many different functions they contain, and
Yeah.
it's its own really cool entity. As a kind of a follow-up, Dr. Megan, we were talking about supplements. Since melatonin is produced naturally in the body, is it okay to take that every night?
So I always say that it's not great to start taking, it's not the best to take some form of sleep aid daily. It's okay for short periods of time, but your body, if you're giving a synthetic form of melatonin to your body, it's not going to produce its own. So it's really important for you to not have that be, or to try not to have your body become dependent on it, because then your body can start saying, oh, I'm getting this melatonin at night from, an oral source. Then it starts not being confused as to how much it actually needs to produce itself. So I would be careful and cautious about making it part of your every night routine.
Wow, that's really interesting, but it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up? I guess maybe a little early this time. I guess another question I had for you, Megan, and maybe in the meantime, we'll get one or two last questions here. Are you finding, in your own practice, maybe anecdotally, that there are certain meridians that like we need to pay attention to? I mean, I know that they all carry equal importance and significance, but are you finding that there are certain meridians that like we all need to do better with? I know that sounds like a really broad
Yeah.
question, but like the lungs thing just made me think like, wow, I think we have so much stress, we're probably not taking big deep breaths, and that becomes kind of a common practice for us.
Yeah.
But anything that you've noticed over time with people?
So, yeah, that's a very concentrated question, but I do have to say in my practice, one, the lungs being, because that's the first defense of our body. So, right. So if we're stressed, or if we're having grief, or if we're overwhelmed, it's really easy for our bodies to be more exposed to getting sick. And so our lungs are really important to pay attention to and to really nourish, because that's kind of our first line of defense to any external that would be coming in and stressing our body even more. In terms of more internal, I would say focus on your digestive organs. So spleen, stomach in Chinese medicine are really important. The large intestine, small intestine. I often find that if people are imbalanced with their digestive organs, that can affect their emotions very, there's a connection there, right? So if you're really trying to focus on eating well and eating, your bigger meal in the morning, or, early lunchtime, that's fine. And eating quality foods, you will notice that you sleep better, your energy's better, you feel better, your mind is better, because there's such a connection there. So I always kind of say, focus on the digestion, focus on those digestive meridians, and then just to keep yourself healthy, that lung organ to protect that as well.
Megan, there were two more questions that popped up while you were talking about that. And one is, where does alcohol fit into all this? I'm guessing there's probably maybe an ideal cutoff time for that as well. It doesn't, because I've read somewhere that if you know, alcohol makes us sleepy, so we fall asleep, but it's really terrible quality sleep because we never really hit that restful stage.
Right.
Can you kind of expound on that a little bit more in the Chinese medicine world?
Yeah, so that's true. So alcohol in general is not great. We know that. But if you're having alcohol, which we all like to have our happy hours and things like that, try to have them earlier in the afternoon, because we talked about that 1 to 3, the liver stage. And if your body is still processing alcohol, which it takes a long time for your body to process out alcohol, you'll find yourself not getting a restful sleep because during that 1 to 3 period in the nighttime, your your liver is working on overdrive. And so you oftentimes will wake up feeling, having a headache or feeling irritable, or just feeling off, and your energy levels will be low. But that's often because we're really taxing our liver. So earlier in the day is better, definitely. So you can process that before you get into bed. And so your body doesn't have to work so hard at night.
We've got a couple of questions here. It looks like we still have 7 minutes to go. Maddie wants to know if there are any specific, so we talked about tea earlier, and you talked about that as we kind of settle into our nighttime routines. And she wants to know if there are any specific types of teas that are good to drink before going to sleep. She says she's drinking more and more tea. She's just curious about what is best to prepare her body for the rest.
Yeah, so more of the like calming herbal teas are great. So chamomile, lavender is really nice. Just kind of stay away from more of the stimulating teas. So even some warm water with lemon and a little honey, that's like the best for your body to get your body kind of calmed down. I know that there is some teas like sleepy time teas and things like that that are fine too, because they're very much focused on more the calming herbs. And then if you want to do something else, like a little warm almond milk at night with your dates, that's really nice and calming. So yeah, there are some suggestions there.
Would you suggest, Megan, maybe we start our days with the warm water, honey, lemon, and ending it with that same concoction and just making that sort of a routine to get into the habit of?
Your body will love you if you do that. Yes, it's very, very nourishing for the body.
I mean, it sounds good, actually. When you said warm water initially, I was like, huh. But yeah, honey and lemon, we can hang.
Yeah, it's great.
And then lastly, our girl Jennifer from MSP wants to know, do you have tips on regulating body temperature? This is really good, actually. This is a very good question because I would like to know. Do you have tips on regulating body temperature at night? And does nutrition during the day weigh in as to why I find myself too warm when I'm sleeping? Good question, Jennifer.
Yes, foods are very key in regulating your body temperature. We also have to look at hormones. So depending on how old you are, and women hormonally change. So that's kind of two different concepts. If you're a woman that's kind of getting into that perimenopausal stage, then you are going to have those hot flashes. And so there's certain foods that you can be eating there.
Same
if your body just,
Megan. Same with postpartum. Just because I experienced that earlier this year, just all the heat, the hot flashes constantly at night.
Absolutely. And so that's more of a deficiency constitution that we would be talking about. So that's more of an internal heat that we would have to focus on nourishing the body. Whereas if your body is just more hot at night, that can be more of an excess. So really focusing on your foods before going to bed will help. So sugar is not good for you to be eating before bed. Or even like later in the day. Spicy foods can be a culprit of having you be hot at night. Alcohol is another one that would be that I would look at to see how much you're having. And then if you feel like it's more of an excess, and that's where you look at the Chinese medicine food therapy, and you can be eating cooler foods. So like cucumbers, watermelon, things that will kind of cool your body down before you get into bed to help process. And then water. I mean, hydration is so important for all of this. So without hydration, you're going to struggle you're not going to be optimizing this cycle. So half your body weight in water is really important. and that'll help to, regulate your body temperature too. Adding some lemon will help with that. If you do feel dehydrated, I always tell people you need electrolytes and not just water. So if you're feeling dehydrated, which we can feel hotter when we're dehydrated, get yourself like some coconut water or watermelon. Both of those things are really great to boost your electrolytes to help regenerate those cells. So food is important.
Megan, that also makes me think, I read somewhere that, maybe you've had a really busy work day, right? You haven't really looked up from your screen for hours, and then it occurs to you like, wow, I'm thirsty. And by the time that you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated, right? And then you feel like you got to compensate, and then you drink and drink and drink and drink. But isn't that too much for your body? Shouldn't we try to, even if we find ourselves in those moments where we're kind of freaked out that we haven't drank water in hours, we should still kind of, would you suggest we still pace ourselves?
Yes, because your body is just eliminating it. It can't process all of that. So ideally it's sipping water throughout the whole day instead of doing it all at night. And then if you are dehydrated, I would say grab yourself some coconut water, grab yourself some watermelon. There's a product out there called Endure. It's just a liquid with some micronutrients and electrolytes. So those types of things can really help. And then trying to do some more of that when you're dehydrated, in addition to water, of course, will help your cells to regenerate more than guzzling down the water after you're already dehydrated. And then start again the next day. And if you're trying to incorporate some of these ideas into your diet and lifestyle, the warm water in the morning with the honey and the lemon, that is so hydrating, and it'll start your day off right. And then hopefully you can keep up with your water throughout the day. So
awesome. I think that about, we're at 1:00 on the nose. So we did great, and we covered everything, Megan. We did it.
Great.
I just want to say, if you missed something, maybe you came on late, maybe you had to leave in the middle of it, whatever the case might be, and you want to hear something again, we will be posting a recording of the webinar on our Wellness Wednesday landing page. We included a link to that in the chat box. You guys probably know what that link is, and it took you to the registration page for today. So that recording, along with a few of the resources that we talked about with Megan, we'll post all of that sometime within the next day or so. So just check back and stay tuned for that. And then while you're there, make sure to check out the upcoming schedule of topics next week, because as you know, this was sort of a one-off. This was a continuation. So next week, we will be talking to an expert about gut health and all of your burning questions around probiotics and prebiotics, fermented foods, best practices for a healthy digestive system. That'll be really interesting as well. I highly, highly, highly recommend that one. And then next month, we'll be diving into sort of where, Eastern medicine meets Western medicine, talking to people from sort of both sides of the coin, how their practices integrate, and just, how much progress we've made in complementary medicine as a whole. So we want to give a major thanks to Megan. Megan, thank you so much. You're so wonderful for the comprehensive view of the sleep-wake cycle as it pertains to this practice, the Chinese medicine body clock, which is like 2,500 years old, but new to many of us. And then last but not least, we'd like to obviously give thanks to Northwestern Health Sciences University for sponsoring this great series. So don't forget to sign up for the next couple of sessions, and our door is always open. So let us know if there's something that you want to hear about in the natural healthcare realm. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you, Jamie. Thanks so much.
This was great.
Yeah.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.